Hello and welcome. We're so excited you've started to take this journey with Project 13 and helping young people see through the lies of culture, get on fire for God, grow deeply in their faith. The title of this training is Launching the Transformational Process with Excellence. Now listen, there's lots of ingredients in Project 13. There's the books. There's the books are devotional, something for them to do with the Lord every day. We'll show you how those work. There's video, there's training, there's PDFs, but really, what we're really formulating here is what we've learned from churches all around the world on how to launch and how to have and host in your church a transformational process that really and truly changes young people from the inside out as they get closer and closer to the Lord. So you might think, well, hey, we got the books in the mail, and that's great. It's not about the books. It's about all the other things. The books are part of the ingredients to the transformational process, but it's not just about doing the book. So this video here is going to be key. I'm going to move to the side here so you can see some of the slides. I'll move back and forth here. But what's very important, probably this may be one of the most important videos of the training that you will ever see, is the launching process. It's not just, hey, we have a book, take a book. I'm going to walk you through exactly what to do with the book, with your young people, with the group. Maybe if you've got just 5 people there or 10 people starting, maybe you're starting with your whole youth group. The beginning of it, the launching of it is so important. It will make or break whether it's successful or not. Now, so let me just kind of back up and give you a bigger picture of what we're looking at here. We want young people to grow so strong in their faith they can see through the lies of the enemy, they see through the lies of the culture, and we want them not just to become disciples, that's more and more like Jesus, but become disciple makers. So this is the process, you maybe have seen this already, of how Project 13 works. We looked and we studied churches around the world that are really and truly remarkable at reaching and discipling the young generation. We found they all do 4 things, and they do them really well. Number 1 is they're training young people to be disciples. So we'll talk about that another time. They're hosting epic events. That is, they're having big events really geared towards 13, 14-year-olds a couple times a year. Number 3, they're deep dive disciple making. They're taking people on a journey. That's what we're talking about here. We're going to launch that journey for you and your young people. And then finally, they build an ecosystem in their church that is where the whole church loves young people. The young people love the church, and they're really integrated. Have a lot to share with you about that. But let's talk about this one right here, deep dive disciple making. This is it's a sticky web of goodness. You're building a culture of passionate Christianity where young people love meeting with Jesus, love growing in their faith each day, and they love meeting with each other. And it's a contagious kind of thing. So deep dive disciple making has kind of 3 elements to it. Number 1, you've got contagious relationships where it starts with you as the pastor, the youth pastor, parent that's going to lead them through. Like, we're committed to following the Lord and helping others and making their relationships contagious, right? Like, they can't wait to bring their friends. Number 2 is we help them make the church, and we'll help you make the church their spiritual home where young people love being at church. This is my church instead of that's my parents' church. That's my pastor, not my parents' pastor. And finally, the steep growth curve of growing like faith, and that's the tool that you have in your hand right now. This trimester 1 of Pathway to Freedom. We'll talk more about exactly how to use that. But this is part of the ecosystem that you're building. Now, remember, our goal is to build this transformational process from 13 years old all the way to 20 years old. And so ultimately you have 14-year-olds discipling 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds discipling 14-year-olds, all the way up. By the time they're 20 or 21, they've been discipling people for years and years. Literally hundreds of people they've poured their life into. So this is a sticky web of goodness that's just amazing. So let's just start with, what is a disciple? It's a lifelong pursuit of becoming more like Jesus by learning from him and experiencing his reality. It's a lifelong pursuit. So this idea of being a disciple, becoming a disciple or disciple maker, we need to understand what our goal is. We don't just want people to come to class or come to church. You know, we've been so happy with putting up with just the bare minimum. They come to youth group and we're so happy. They still want to come to church and we're so happy. But that's not where we want to settle. We want them to get them so strong in their faith that they can make good decisions when we're not there, that they can have great godly character for their generation, and that they've got the kind of life that is worthy of following so that they can disciple other people. So a lot of people don't even know what the word disciple means. Maybe it's the class you take when you first come to Christ for 4 weeks. No, it's a lifelong process. We're all becoming more like Jesus. So we're going to start here. Essentially, we're building a factory of young people who follow Jesus and making them into world changers, disciple makers. And as a result, they create a whole army of followers of Christ, of disciple makers. So we're building a factory of world changers, people that love Jesus and can't wait to see him impact. Now, as you're starting Project 13, remember there's a process, and there's 4 phases to actually start it. Project 13 is not a program per se. It's not curriculum. It's this, what we've been talking about, this transformational process that you're building. And you don't just flip the switch and it happens. You're doing the very first step right now, and it's the quiet phase. Not everybody knows in the church yet. You haven't announced it. It's the quiet phase. You pull people aside. Maybe you've just got 5 or 10 or 20 young people. You pull them aside and say, listen, we want you to grow because we think you have the potential to be a disciple maker. And so later we'll talk about how to do the public phase and the deep impact phase, and then continuously improving. So you're in the quiet phase right now, and there's 4 things that we're going to concentrate on, as you saw earlier in an earlier slide, and 4 elements to launching this really, really well. It's how do you choose the right ones, the right young people to start discipling, preparing them for the journey, training them during the journey, and then refining the process. So we're going to go through each of those 4 things really quick here so that you can really get an idea how important it is to launch this thing correct. We're going to review each 4 of those steps in the process of building this transformational process with excellence. Number 1 is the choosing. First, you're going to want to really think, who do you want to invite on this journey? So you're looking for 4, 5, maybe 10 that have demonstrated that they love God, or they've got a desire to learn more, and you don't announce it. You pull them aside and you say, hey, listen, we've got a real heart for your young generation. We think you could be a part of starting a revolution here, and we want to invite you to come to a meeting. It's just for invitation only. It's not for everybody. And so you invite them to an invitation-only meeting. And so maybe you've got 5 or 10 kids there. Maybe you've got more than that. And when you've got them there for the very first meeting, you're saying, listen, you tell them a little bit about Project 13, that young people all around the world are passionately seeking the Lord, and we have a heart for the young people right here in our city, in our town, in our nation, and we think you could be a key part of a revolution that we want to see launched, and that is, we think you have the potential to be a leader. You have the potential to be a disciple maker. So you got them in a small group there and say, listen, we want to invite you to go on a journey with us. The journey is over the next 12 weeks. And you lift up and show them one of the books that you've gotten, Pathway to Freedom. It's trimester 1. And you explain to them exactly how this journey works. It's not something that you're, a class that you're coming to per se. It's like something you're doing with the Lord every day. And so we'll show you how to help them to know how to use the book. But it's very important that they kind of realize that they're going on a journey with you, and that it's not about coming to a meeting every week, but it's about them. You get them in the room and you start helping them see that we are meeting every week, but it's really about meeting with Jesus and going on a journey with him. Number 2 is preparing them. So you got them in the first meeting, you invited them. Now you've got them in the first meeting, and you begin to just talk to them about young people that are pursuing the Lord, and you could be a part of this generation. Give them a vision for the young people in your region, and that they are key to impacting them. You see potential in them. And so the idea is you're preparing them by planting vision inside them. So you're asking them to go on this journey with you for the next 12 weeks. You're going to take it with them, right? And so this is what this journey looks like. We're going to help them get close to God so they are prepared to be used by God. The good thing is that everyone gets to be used by God. God's going to use you to help impact your young generation. You're telling them this. Everybody gets to get on the field and play. In sports, too often only the good guys get to play. Everybody else is a spectator. And for too long, that's what it's been like in church. That everybody, is just watching what the pastor or the associate pastors and other people do. Well, in this model, everybody gets to get on the field. Everybody gets to play. And we're going to prepare you to get on the field and to be used by God. How many of you guys want to be used by God? Ask them to raise their hand. So it really is sort of redefining what on fire is. So a lot of times when we think about people being on fire for the Lord, we think maybe they're sitting in the front row and they're taking notes and they're doing this stuff and they're there week after week, maybe 1 year, 2 years, maybe after a couple years you think, hey, where did John go? I haven't seen him for a while. Have you seen him? Did he change churches? Did he fall away? We don't really know what happened. Well, if you think that being on fire for the Lord is only receiving, like you're writing, you're taking notes, sitting in the front row, worshiping like crazy, that's your definition of on fire, well then you can think, well, wow, if John couldn't stay on fire, then nobody could. Well, maybe John became like the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is dead. It doesn't grow. No fish can live there. No plant life can live there. And the reason is it only has an input. The Jordan River runs into it, but nothing runs out. So it's really salty. Maybe you've heard that. Nothing can live in it. And that's how Christians get. If you're only receiving, coming to youth group, coming to church, receiving, after a while, I'm kind of bored. You weren't designed. None of us were designed to live like this. Jesus was sending his disciples for God to use them even before, he died on the cross and rose from the dead. And so we're preparing them to be used by the Lord. And it's sort of what we're all supposed to be doing. Because listen, that very first time that God uses you, that very first time, like, I can't believe it. My words spoke to somebody's heart. Not just that maybe I preached a sermon, but I gave some encouragement. I did something. The very first time that happens, you're never the same. Something wakes up on the inside of you. I like to say it's like destiny. Like destiny, like you realize I'm not just here for my stuff and my fun and my Instagram and my job and money. Like God has something for me. Listen, nobody can preach that into you. No one can get you excited. No sermon can ignite that. When God uses you, it lights something. It causes something to come to life in you that's never been alive. And this is what we're going to do for the young people. We're going to help them as they go through trimester 1, get into a position where God can use them. And he's going to use you in that process. So you won't have a bunch of dead kids. So part of that process is trimester 1, Pathway to Freedom. You've already seen that. And then Pathway to Leadership. You've probably got this book as well for you to go through. But also ultimately, you're going to take your young people through this as they're preparing to lead. So let me just give you a glimpse of how these 2 books work. I know they look like a book, but they're not really a book. You want to, if you've got your group of young people that have just come to be discipled, and you've got your 5 books together, you don't have to show them the yellow book. That's for you. You explain to them how the blue book works. If you have invited your young people to become disciple makers, you already see some great potential in them, then you'll introduce both books to them and say, listen, we're going to go through both of these together and we'll take a journey. And it's only 2 or 3 pages a day. It's not a book that you read through. I'll show you in a minute how to use it. So this is what happens. The journey I've been mentioning for 12 weeks, this is in each book, there's something for them to do when they meet with Jesus every day for 12 weeks. So there's 2 or 3 pages a day. You can see stuff to read each day. There's something to write down each day. So for example, what does this verse mean in your own words? What do you think the Lord's trying to say in this verse? And they write stuff down every day. There's action steps. So what about this day? There's daily Bible reading. They're reading through a chapter a day in the Bible. And so they're growing and they're growing. And you can see at the end of each week, there are discussion questions. And so these are discussion questions that you can walk with them through. And so as you lead this discussion, we're going to talk about how you do that at the end of each week. It's really important because how you lead that meeting will cause them to come to life. And at first, it might feel a little bit challenging. We'll talk about how to bring a little bit of life to that. By the end of the first meeting, you're saying, hey, we've talked about this journey for 12 weeks. We're asking you to do 2 things. Number 1, commit to meet with Jesus every day for 12 weeks. That's maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Anybody that loves Jesus, anybody can make time for that. Listen, Christians, we're not trying to get people barely come to church, barely come to youth group and think, woo-hoo, we won the Olympics or something. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is not to get them barely hanging on to God. It's to get them deep, deep, deep in their faith. And so that the enemy cannot deceive them and trick them anymore. So we're asking them to meet with Jesus. This is what we do. We followers. We follow Jesus every day. We don't just come to church. We don't just hear a sermon once or twice a week. But we follow him every day. That is, we meet with him. Number 2, you ask him to commit to come each week to a small group meeting. That might mean come to youth group an hour early to meet with you. Come to your house for an hour each week. And this is where, at the end of each week, where you're going to lead them through a discussion about what happened in their quiet time that week. So once you've presented that, you just say, hey, what do you guys think? Let them discuss it a little bit. Say, how many of you guys are in? How many want to go for it? Ask them to lift their hands. And say, because in just a moment, you're going to distribute the books. You're going to hand out either the one book or both books if they're on a track to become a leader. And when they get them in their hands, I want you to ask them to do this. This is kind of at the end of the meeting before you're dismissing. You're getting ready. You're launching this. And so you say, listen, before we leave, I want you guys to close your eyes. And I want you to set an appointment with Jesus. Like, think about, for tomorrow morning, what time do you usually get up? So what time are you going to get up to meet with the Lord? Just think about it. If you usually get up at 6, say, I'm going to get up at 5:45. Whatever the thing is. Now I want you to picture in your mind what time you're going to meet with him, where you're going to meet with him, what chair you're going to sit in, turn on a light, maybe get a cup of coffee or tea or a Coke or whatever, Red Bull, wake yourself up, I don't know, cold water on your face. Where you're going to sit, we're going to put your book there and put your Bible there and have it ready for you. Now just imagine, in their mind, ask them to imagine that. Now I want you to just whisper to the Lord. Just say, Lord, this is my appointment with you. I'm setting it with you right now. And they can open their eyes and then ask them to take the book and write their name in it and then write their appointment with Jesus. The time, the place, how long they're going to spend each day. And then take a minute and then just go around the room. Or if they have small groups right there that they're already broken into, go around their group and share, like, when's your appointment? When's your appointment? When's your appointment? And then close in prayer over them. So the point is, they're way more likely to actually meet with the Lord if they set a specific time and place and they write it down and they make a commitment to each other. One of the things they'll talk about when you get together each week is, hey, how'd your appointment go with the Lord this week? What happened? Did you do it? Oh, I only did it 5 days, but I really missed those other days. Because it'll be a process of learning how to do that. You can see we have many trimesters in place already. Trimester 1, you've got already. That's how Jesus impacts every part of my life. Trimester 2 is right here, building your whole life on a solid foundation. It's really thinking about every part of your life. Trimester 3 is maturity in the Lord, learning to get some character so you can lead. They're each 12 weeks long. Trimester 4 is resilience. I'm so excited about this. It's like building a kind of faith that can withstand anything that comes against you. We got many more that we're in process of. You can see from 13 years old all the way up to 21 years old. We've got trimesters in process, 24 of them. And so this is a journey that's going to last for a long time. They're going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing while they're helping other people grow. So you can give them a vision for that. So I want you to think about the process of growth. And one of the first things you're going to want to do with your young people, either the first week when you first meet with them, or maybe the next week, is paint a picture for them with this metaphor. We've described it in their book for them. And that is, in the process of life, you can see there's normal things biologically. Newborn, infant, toddler, child, preteen. There are things that are normal at each stage in life. Now, there are things that a newborn does that nobody else does. When they first make their first poopy. If you're a parent, you're so proud. You're holding the diaper in front of everybody. You're showing your friends. You're framing it. Like, you're so glad that the digestive system works, right? Now, if your kid is 13 and they're pooping their pants, no one's showing anybody. No one's talking about that because it's not normal. And so, just like in physical life, there are things that are normal at each growth stage. Spiritually, it's the same way. So, for example, a newborn makes mistakes. They mess their pants. They still, have some sin issues. They've asked forgiveness. And, you have to help people understand that, if you're making some mistakes, it's okay. I mean, that's part of the growth in life. But then you're going to grow to be an infant. Then you're going to be a toddler. Toddlers, they're learning to walk. They fall down, they skin their knee, they get back up. And so you might be a toddler in your faith. You keep falling down in some areas, keep getting back up. And the more you grow, the more mature you get, the stronger you get, the more freedom you get, the more flourishing you have, the more peace you have, the more impact you have, that God trusts you to impact other lives. And so as you grow in your faith to a teenager and a young adult and an adult, you're able to grow in your ability to really minister and really hear God's voice, and you're wanting to point in, give them hope, give them a vision. Like, this is where we want to go. We don't want to stay here. But then, so you describe that. We're all on a journey going somewhere. And then you ask them at the very beginning, so where do you think you are? Ask them to self-identify. Where do you think you are in your growth journey? Well, a lot of them identify over here. If they've just come to Christ, certainly the ones who've just come to Christ at one of your events, they're going to say, well, probably here. But you've just planted a seed in them. I might be down here, but I don't want to stay there. I want to get more mature. I want to have more impact. And then at the beginning of each trimester, you have them self-identify. Then at the end of each trimester, you have them self-identify again, so you can see, they can see their own growth. How they're developing in their faith. So number 3 is training. Now I'm going to train you right now how to lead those small groups we talked about. Now in a group, at first, it always feels kind of awkward. What are we doing here? We have this book. What are we doing? And there's a process of assimilation of a group that makes it really great. It's called storming, norming, and then performing. So it's just like a brand new, like a team. Everybody gets on a baseball team or a football team. They're like, okay, what part am I going to play? And they kind of know the part, but they're kind of awkward together. And that's sort of the storming process. That's going to happen with your small group, or with all your small groups in your church. It'll feel a little bit like, what are we doing here? Maybe you've kind of had small groups before in your church. Are we doing the same thing? What's different? So you're going to be defining. You're going to be defining for them what you're doing, and they're learning like what's the appropriate way to talk, what should we talk about, what kinds of discussions should we have. Then there's norming. Oh, we look forward to this. And then there's performing. That's like, oh my gosh, we look forward to it. We can't wait for to share our heart, to learn and to grow. We can't wait to come back every week and talk about what the Lord has done in our life. So don't be discouraged if you go through the storming for the first 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. There's just storming, and they start getting into rhythm and norming and then performing. So your first meeting, after they've been doing this for a week, the first 2 meetings really, really important, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to pull out of them what has the Lord been speaking to them. Now, I would encourage you the very first week after you send them off with their book is if you're the youth pastor, if you're one of the volunteers, if you're leading this small group, any group that you're leading, you need to be connecting with them several times a week. That is texting, calling them, say, hey, how's it going? What's going on in your life, period? And say, hey, what happened with your appointment with Jesus Day? So what you're doing is you're not waiting till the next week to have the conversation with everybody. You're constantly kind of leaning in relationally. And if they're saying, I just did it, but it was boring, then you're listening real carefully for that, because you're probably going to hear that at first, because you're teaching them new habits. The habit is not just meeting and setting up a time and going through a book. The habit is having a rich time with the Lord, okay? And so if they're not having that, you say, hey, well, tomorrow morning, let's get up and do it together. We can Skype together, or Zoom together, or do FaceTime together, or we'll do the same room, or just on the phone together. And we'll literally go through it with them. Now, I want to encourage you, even though you might be older, you might be mature in your faith, is at least the first time through, actually go through the book with them. Like, do it in your quiet time every day, so that when you meet with them, one of the first things you do is say, you're checking in how things went this week, just kind of in general. Say, listen, on Wednesday this week, this verse really spoke to me. So you start by sharing your own heart, what the Lord spoke to you. Be a little bit vulnerable. I got convicted about this. I had to ask forgiveness. And so you're modeling for them that you're doing it with them. You're not just the wise teacher, but you're meeting with Jesus too, right? And you're on the journey with them, not just coordinating a group for them. So part of what you're doing each time is you're sort of, because you've connected with them via text, through calls, whatever, maybe you had a Coke with them, coffee or something during the week, and so that when you get together, say, hey, John, you told me about a God moment you had on Tuesday. Would you share that with everybody else? Or Susan, would you share what happened on Thursday? Or you're just kind of probing them. Everybody turn to Tuesday. Why don't everybody read what you read, what you wrote in that part, like what this verse means to you or whatever. You can talk about what action steps you committed to this week.
So remember, whatever you do, you will set the norm for them. If you've just got 5 young people that are going through your group with you, or you've got 10 or 50 or 20, whatever you've trained your other leaders to do, like calling them, texting them, that's what they're going to think is normal. When you have the small group meeting, whatever you do there, how you facilitate that, and I'm going to train you how to do that right now. But that will be what they think is normal. So connecting with them throughout the week is really important. It sets up for a great meeting. So that first meeting, second, third one, very important that they really come away going, oh wow, I didn't realize that God was really speaking to me, or he was putting something on my heart there. So one of the things you're always going to want to ask them is, how was your appointment with Jesus this week? Each day of the week. How did it go? What was that? Did you experience a God moment that you just, oh my gosh, that was so amazing? Can you describe that? How did it make you feel? What did he speak to your heart, and that kind of thing? So during the meeting itself, there's we call them connect groups, but you can call them small groups, whatever you want. Is first of all, they're going to come in the room. There's some small talk. Everybody's kind of sitting on the ground or in a chair, wherever they're sitting. And how's it going? How was your this week in general? With school, with family, or whatever. And I ask them to share how the week has gone, and anything you guys been praying for this week that the Lord really did something in your life, that kind of thing. And did you see any prayers answered this week? Take time with each person to kind of see how their week went, and that kind of thing. And then you start talking about the questions that we put there on day 7, and God moments throughout the week. You're trying to help them identify God moments all along the way, and that they're really seeing God speak to them, even they didn't realize it. And it's sort of like that, what happened with Jesus when he was talking to all the disciples, and they said, who do the men say that I am? Some say John the Baptist, some say this. And then Peter said, I say you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. Remember what Jesus said? Because flesh and blood did not reveal it to you, but my Father in heaven. In other words, he's trying to show Peter, you had a God moment. God spoke to you. God had spoken to his heart, and he didn't even realize it. So that's part of your job. What we get to do as leading a young group of young people is point out God moments where God is speaking to them, and what you're looking for is for God moments to happen in the small groups as they're recounting their God moments throughout the week. So as you facilitate the group, remember, you're not teaching. You don't have to teach. The book does the teaching, right? And you're facilitating. You're trying to help them see, did you put this into your heart? Are you praying about this? Did God speak to you at all? And you're facilitating the conversation. So as you're doing that, sometimes at first, remember the storming is a little bit difficult, like pulling teeth, get them to really talk and share their heart. And those that are over talkers, some people like to talk. You want to say, that's awesome, Julie. Hey, what about you, Susan? And you kind of help her to learn how to control talking as much. And then those that are under talkers, you're kind of pulling out of them, trying to help apply it to their life. Like, what did that verse mean to you? How the challenge or the action step, did you take that action step this week? What did it mean to you? So you're facilitating them meeting with God in their quiet times and having God moments, and you're facilitating God moments in the weekly meeting. Really important, because you want them to walk away with like, oh my gosh, we didn't just meet. We didn't just do homework and come and talk about it. We met with God. And at the end, you've had different moments, people talking about different things. You find out prayer needs that different ones might have for that week, something that's going on in their life, and make sure that you have a time of prayer. Pray for each person. Maybe some people are struggling with their family or with friendship or with school or whatever. Just pray for them about their general needs. Pray for them about whatever they're struggling with as far as really meeting with God. So you want to keep going around the room, because there's several questions. You probably won't get to all the questions each week. It's okay, but try to get to them. And the questions are designed to help provoke interaction, provoke engagement, provoke thinking. And we don't have a deep thinking vibe in our culture. We're so distracted by this and by that. So we're teaching them to think deeply about the things of God and about their faith and this kind of thing. And so what you do as a facilitator is really, really important in between meetings and during those meetings, okay? Looking for those God moments. And so don't worry if it's a little bit clunky at first, you'll get better and better and better each week. You'll see it happening. And then ultimately, kids are gonna keep coming, looking forward to it. By the time you're done with the 12 weeks, you'll have an encounter at the end. That's like a one-day retreat. Everybody comes to the church that's in the small group, and you have a worship time and ministry time about the different big moments. We'll talk about some of those throughout the 12 weeks. And it's sort of like slap your mama, God's in the house, kind of like we just graduated from trimester 1 and encouraging them to go into trimester 2. This is the deal. You want as many people as possible to make it through all 12 weeks. But if it looks like there's some people just doing it because their friends are there, but they're not really writing stuff down, it's why we have actual books, so you can see if people are doing it or not. You might want to pull them aside and say, listen, maybe this isn't for you right now. Maybe next time we start, you don't want people going to the end, but they really didn't participate, they really didn't have quiet times, and then they go to the encounter and they sort of graduate, but they really didn't do it. This is not everybody gets a trophy. This is like we're really teaching them how to meet with the Lord and how to really get connected, okay? And so you have to be willing to have those conversations, because I guarantee you there'll be some people that, especially the first time around, won't make it. So, and then you're going to be refining. That is, as you start doing this, you're going to get refine it and get better and better and better at it. So throughout the 12 weeks, there's some big moments that you'll want to be looking for, and you can review these during the encounter time that you do at the end of the trimester. For example, there's the friendship experience, where there's several weeks that talk about friendships and relationships and loneliness, and have some ministry time about, hey, I felt really lonely, or I felt like people have picked on me, or I felt like I haven't really had a friend. There's a communion experience that I would encourage you to do during the encounter as well, where we talk about at the end of the book why to have communion, what it's about. And part of that is, you're examining yourself. Scripture says examine yourself before you take communion. Maybe you've been examining yourself these 12 weeks and you've repented of some things and asked forgiveness. That's great. Let's bring all those to the Lord and walk away from those, so that you can really make that a very meaningful time during your encounter service. There's a purity experience where the weeks 9 and 10, we're talking about the boyfriends and girlfriends and this kind of thing. And maybe you need to renew your heart for, asking forgiveness for anything you've done or thought about, and recommitting to purity. And then there's the family forgiveness experience, where maybe you've had kids in your group that have had a really tough time with their family. The last couple weeks is all about forgiving people in your family, your parents or whatever, and walking them through that, having a great time in ministry there. So what you're praying for is that God will really, you'll see some transformation start to happen in their habits, in their friendships, in their family, and their connection with God. And you can see that what we're trying to do here is layer the learning. That is, we're not just like learning stuff. No, we all know people who've learned lots of the Bible. They've taken all kinds of notes, but they're still as mean as a hornet, right? We don't want these kids to be like that. We're layering the learning. We're teaching them to meet with Jesus every day, so we're doing this. We're teaching to meet around the table and be authentic and be vulnerable. One of the best ways to get them to be vulnerable is for you as the young leader or the leader of young people to be vulnerable. Even if you're older, or if you're the youth pastor, it's okay. We're teaching them to internalize Scripture. What did that mean to you? Memorize Scripture, put it inside them. Reading a chapter of the day, we're teaching them this is what we do. We followers. It's not just radicals. Radicals normal. All followers of Jesus are radical. We're reading Scripture each day. We're teaching them how to have real friendships. We're engineering their friendship. This is what real friends do. We don't get mad and then block. We don't get mad. We learn to forgive. We learn to care. We learn to ask forgiveness, things like that. Training them to think through all the major issues of life and think critically. And that there's a journey to this thing. It's not just I'm going to church on Sunday, but I'm journeying with Jesus every day. So this encounter at the end of each trimester, I encourage you, make sure that's on the calendar right now, because it should be, everybody should be looking forward to it. Hey, the encounter's on this day. Make sure you don't have anything on that day, because we're all planning for it and preparing for it. Remember, the process here is storming, first few weeks, and then norming, and then performing. You might want to go back and watch this video a couple more times as you're going through the process, so you can tweak what you're doing. Of course, you've got the PDF book there as well that goes into great detail about how to facilitate. I encourage you to look at that. And if you've not gotten the entire Project 13 program yet, the masterclass and the playbook, all 35 videos, all these other secrets of really building this ecosystem of radical Christianity, I encourage you to check it out, because it's not just for you in a small group. It's really a whole strategic approach to reaching and discipling with life-giving processes, with a transformational process. And so I encourage you to check that out. Get online at generationnext.me or project13.church and find out more information about how you can download these and take your whole leadership group through the masterclass so that everybody's on the same page. God bless you. I look forward to hearing about your journey and of the journey that you're taking your young people on.